Hello, and thank you for attending. We appreciate you signing up for this session. This event is a very special event for VoIP service providers brought to you by Telinta and TransNexus. Today's agenda. First, TransNexus will discuss their robocall mitigation solutions that will help you meet your stir-shaken requirements. Telinta will discuss our hosted softswitch and billing solutions. Then we'll open it up for some short Q&A, and we'll discuss next steps. Our first speaker is Mark St. Onge, who is Customer Success Executive with TransNexus, and he'll describe his company's solutions. Welcome, Mark.
Thank you very much, Anthony. I'm glad to be here. I'm going to be speaking for about 15-20 minutes, and I'm going to present Stir Shaken solution offered by TransNexus. It's called ClearIP, and I'm going to be talking about new rules which are being put in place by the FCC and that concern all service providers. And finally, at the end, I'm going to provide a brief demo of our Stir Shaken solutions. First, a word about myself. I joined TransNexus last year. I've been in the telecom industry for more than 30 years already. And I'm very happy to be part of this organization. The software solutions that we provide are focused on service providers, and they implement some of the features or functionalities that you see here. Stir Shaken, what I'm going to be talking about today, robocall prevention, fraud prevention, telephony denial of service prevention, and integrated into the products are lots of analytics and reporting features, and I'll give you a brief demo of that when we have a look at ClearIP when I log into our system. So topics I'm covering today, I'm going to start first with a new FCC report and order, which was adopted about a month ago, and I'm going to highlight service provider obligations, which are new. The FCC has brought some changes to their requirements they're imposing on service providers. And I'm going to briefly present the regulatory requirements for a service provider to participate in the Stir Shaken framework. And I'm going to discuss from a technical point of view, shaken authentication call flow and a shaken verification call flow interfacing with the Telinta Telecore platform. And finally, we're going to access ClearIP and have a look at some real messages. So first of all, about a month ago, the FCC issued a new report and order. And here are the major highlights of this report and order. The first two, probably you'll say, that's not new. I have to, as a service provider, servicing the USA, or as an international service provider sending calls to the USA, which have US calling and call-led telephone numbers, I have to be performing robocall mitigation, and I have to have a robocall mitigation plan filed in the robocall mitigation database. Well, you'd be exactly right to say that, but what's new is that these two requirements are imposed now, even if you have a complete Stir Shaken implementation, which was not the case before. You know, if you claim that you implemented Stir Shaken, you no longer had to present a robocall mitigation plan. But now you do, and the deadline to implement or to comply with these new rules are not published yet, because it has to do with the registration in Federal Register and which we expect will be done within the next month. And then all service providers will have 30 days to follow these new rules. What's more important and totally new is that the FCC is requiring that all service providers use call analytics to log their robocall mitigation activities, and they must be able to describe what analytics, meaning statistics, that they are gathering related to robocall mitigation. Other thing is, if you're using a third-party solution, such as one from TransNexus, for example, well, you need to identify TransNexus as a provider in your robocall mitigation plan. You must also describe your procedures to know your customers, meaning you have to describe if you have a signed contract with your customers and the content of this contract. Are you requiring that they do not issue robocalls, and if they do, what are the consequences? How do you vet the customer, and so on? And finally, you need to describe your role in the service provider chain now. Are you an originating service provider? Are you a terminating service provider? Are you a gateway provider, meaning you are receiving international calls which you're terminating in the USA? Or are you an intermediate service provider, meaning you're like a wholesale carrier, in the middle of the chain between originating and terminating service provider? And finally, for intermediate service providers, which I just described, this is totally new. The FCC will now require that intermediate service providers sign unsigned calls. So, which means that if you receive a call from a upstream service provider and there's no signature on it, well, you need to authenticate this call before you send it on. If you want to find out more, there's a link down here in the slide. When you get access to the slides, you can read more about it. More detail there. I'm just providing the highlights. There's way more as well. Okay, changing subjects now, and I'm going to go briefly because the rest is important. As a service provider, just mentioned this, you need to have an entry in the robocall mitigation database. You need to also file what's called a Form 99A form with the FCC. You also need to obtain an operating company number. And finally, the ultimate goal of doing this is to register with the policy administrator such that you can obtain a certificate to sign your own calls. Here again, I'm providing links which you can use to obtain more information about this. For your information, this process here can take about, say, 1 to 2 months if you're quite focused on it. Otherwise, if you let it slip, it'll take longer than that. But still, it doesn't take too long. Okay, let's go to the interesting part of my presentation. Is the deployment of STIR/SHAKEN with the Telinta Telecore platform. What I'm showing here on this slide is over here on the right, an originating service provider, and on the left, an originating service provider, and on the right, a terminating service provider. I'm showing them here using the Telinta switch. And I'm showing in this blue cloud TransNexus product called ClearIP, which implements for you an authentication service to sign outbound calls and a verification service to verify inbound calls, which have been signed by an originating service provider. The ClearIP solution supplies all of these parts. I mentioned you need to register with the policy administrator. Well, the purpose of doing that is because the stir-shaken solutions out there, including ClearIP, interface with the policy administrator in order to get what's called an SPC token to generate a certificate in order to be able to sign your outbound calls. So the interface between Telinta and the authentication service, we're going to look at it in a little bit of detail in a moment, uses SIP to request authentication, and the reply comes back from ClearIP in a SIP response, providing the passport, which is the signature that needs to be included in the outgoing invite that you place or you send onto the PSTN. Let's look at it in detail. Let's look at this authentication part in detail here. The actual messages between the Telinta platform and ClearIP for an outbound call is an invite, which is sent to ClearIP, and it responds with a 302 redirect. In this 302 response, there's the identity header, which is copied and included in the outgoing invite by the Telinta platform. This performs the authentication of an outbound call. Let's look at the messages. Showing here some typical signaling between Telinta and ClearIP, and I'm highlighting what's important. First is what's called a partition. This outbound in the host part of the request URI allows ClearIP to identify that the invite it receives concerns an outbound call, and it must therefore perform shaken authentication. The other important parts of this invite are, of course, the calling telephone number. By the way, if it's not available in the p-asserted identity, then it's taken from the from header. And the other important part is the call-led telephone number, and I'm using one NPA XXX here as an example. ClearIP receives this invite and generates an identity header returned in the 302. This is encoded information which needs to go out with your invite to the public network. Let's have a look at this identity header. Once decoded, it contains the following information. Most important parts are the calling telephone number, the call-ed telephone number, which ClearIP obtained from the invite received, the level of attestation provided for this call, and the possible levels are A, B, and C. And there's a timestamp and also a signature. The terminating service provider decodes this passport included in the invite, uses your certificate to verify the signature. If the calling telephone number and the call-ed telephone number found in the passport match what's in the signaling, well, then the verification is successful. All right. Let's have a look at this verification by a terminating service provider. Similarly, the interface for an inbound call. Notice that in this case, the call is coming from the PSTN. It is an invite, and it contains an identity header because the originating service provider has signed this call. Telinta, a Telecore platform, sends the invite to ClearIP with the identity header. ClearIP performs verification and returns a response, which is configurable. It may change the caller name displayed, and it includes a verstat parameter, which provides the result of verification. Let's have a look at the messages briefly. The invite is on the right-hand side we see the identity received on the inbound call here, and the other important parts of this message are the calling telephone number and the call-led telephone number. When performing shaken verification, clear IP also returns a 302, but in this case, it decodes the identity header, verifies the call, and may return, if you configure it as such, a V in brackets to indicate verification is successful, or the calling telephone number has been verified and it's not spoofed. It also returns a verstat parameter, which more and more these days SIP devices are able to support this verstat parameter and be able to display maybe a green check mark, on the called party's phone, or maybe a V in brackets like we do with Clear IP. So we've had a look at shaken authentication and verification. Let me go and let me change to my browser so I can show you some real messages here. I've accessed here Clear IP in the lab. We have a Clear IP demonstration system, and this is what we're seeing. If you access Clear IP and you have a look, if you log in, this is what you'd see. I'll show you only the interesting parts. Analytics, well, first of all, let me say here, in this menu, this is how we set up, your certificate in order to sign your outbound calls. This is how we set up your authentication policies and your verification policies for inbound calls. Clear IP records, excuse me, all transactions between your network and the Telinta Telecora platform, and he keeps these messages for 1 year. So let's have a look at something that may be interesting here. Let's have a look at a authentication or verification demo. Let me display more messages here so I can find a good one to show. Let's try this one here. If I click the blue show button here, I can see the invite received from Telinta. Okay, I can see the content of this invite, and I see that there is an identity header included. Clear IP performs verification and returns a 302, as I was explaining, and this case it returned a V in brackets because the verification was successful. All right, or the telephone number validation is passed. That's a sample verification and a sample authentication. We can have a look at this one here. Here's an invite received from Telinta switch. For example, in this case, there's no p-asserted identity, but we do have a from header. Well, Clear IP performs shaken authentication and returns the identity header here. In this case, embedded in the contact URI in this example, whether you embed the identity header or you send it standalone. Okay. And last thing I'll do, Anthony, and then I'll pass it on to you, is just show sample authentication policies such that it can be very practical, for the attendees here. Here, let's take an example that would be good. Let's take this one here. By configuring this policy, what we're saying is give attestation level A to all outbound calls from Big Tree Telecom, which may be, for example, one of your customers, because they don't have the ability to change their calling numbers, for example. If I scroll down here, I can give you other examples here where we give attestation level A to specific calling numbers. You could list all of your customers' calling numbers and give them attestation level A, and give all other telephone numbers attestation level B on shaken authentication. All right, back to my slides for just a moment, please. Here we go. And what I want to say, Anthony, is one last thing. That for the webinar attendees, Clear IP is a solution in the cloud. It runs on Amazon's cloud, and you saw that you interface with it from the Telinta switch using the SIP protocol. And the price to use Clear IP is based on usage. And so for the webinar attendees, if you'd like to give the solution a trial, well, we provide a credit for you to perform your test calls and verify that the solution is providing the functionality that you want, and we can test the integration with Telinta. But this has been deployed many times already. We have the recipe to make it work well with your switch, Anthony. And that's it. I'll stop here. I'll stop here for the moment. Back to you.
Okay, thank you, Mark. My name is Anthony Stiso, Vice President of Marketing and Sales for Telinta, and today I'm going to speak about our hosted switching and billing solutions for VoIP service providers. If you're not familiar with Telinta, you can find more about us at our website, telinta.com. Some information about our company. We were founded in 2002, so we've had over 20 years of continuous operations, and we're actually one of the companies who pioneered the concept of hosting a soft switch in the cloud. We've provided partition soft switch for hundreds of VoIP service providers and their resellers around the world, on every continent. We call our platform Telecore, and what makes it different is that it combines industry-leading switching and billing solutions together with some of our own custom development, some tools and solutions that we've added over the years. We also have integration to a complete ecosystem of industry-leading partners, such as TransNexus, and we're the world's largest hosted soft switch of its type anywhere on the globe. Our main facilities are located just outside of New York City at 165 Halsey Street. We have additional facilities across the US, Canada, and key markets around the world. Our business model is very simple. We sell globally to VoIP service providers around the world, and we sell only to VoIP service providers. We never sell directly to end user businesses because we don't want to compete with our customers in the marketplace. So if someone wants a PBX service for their own business, we don't handle that customer. If someone wants to provide hosted PBX or other VoIP services to their customers as a service provider, that's a good prospect for Telinta. Everything we do is white label. You'll never see the Telinta brand name in any of our solutions, so that you can market under your brand name. If you have resellers, your resellers can market under their brand name as well. You're in complete control of your pricing, and you're really running your own business. You're not just reselling someone else's business. You're in control. We don't offer VoIP termination or DIDs because we want to enable our customers to use any providers they need. So you can have as many different carriers as you'd like. You can also use other types of service providers for things like SMS, E911, voicemail transcription, and a variety of other things that we've integrated into our platform. As I mentioned, we've brought together an ecosystem of industry-leading partners that give you the products and solutions that you need to run a profitable VoIP business. When you join Telinta as a customer, We provide you with comprehensive training to help you get started. And then after that, 24/7 live technical support every day of the year, weekends, holidays, whenever. We understand that your business runs 24/7, so our business runs 24/7. Everything we do, your business is at the center. Here's just a very simple representation of a VoIP business. You build your business based on our platform so that you don't need to deploy any hardware, software, servers. We do that for you. It's a hosted solution. You receive your inbound calls from your DID providers. For many providers, we have APIs integrated into our platform so that you have access to your DID provider's inventory of DIDs. If you have multiple DID providers, all integrated into our platform with APIs, when you present your inventory to one of your customers, they see the combined inventory of all of your providers. So the APIs really make it easier for you to run your business. And it's very simple to connect any termination providers you'd like, as many termination providers as you'd like. In fact, we recommend that you have more than one so that you have redundancy and you can do things like least cost routing. And if one of your termination providers has a bad day, your business doesn't grind to a halt because our system can automatically route around them and send the calls to one of your other providers. So again, you can have as many DID providers and termination providers as you need. We provide you with resources for your end users, things like a customer self-care portal. It's brandable. You can operate in any language you need. Your customers can log in, configure payment information, see real-time CDRs, and a variety of other self-service functions, even things like online sign-up. And as I mentioned, you can support an unlimited number of resellers. They can do business under their own brand. And other products and services, IP phones. If you offer services to businesses, IP phones are very important. We're going to talk a little later about provisioning profiles. SMS, growing in popularity every year. We're integrated with 3 mobile top-up providers, which some customers find very useful to offer to their customers. We have an MVNO service for global roaming for international travelers. And we also offer brandable mobile and desktop soft phones. And these are very popular if you're dealing with businesses who want to offer remote work solutions, work from home, work from the office, work from anywhere. Mobile and desktop soft phones. So, as we've already discussed, our platform is integrated with TransNexus. We realize that our customers have FCC requirements that they need to meet. So we've made this easier for you by working together with TransNexus. And we do this for both your inbound and your outbound traffic. Basically, calls come from our platform to TransNexus to be signed, and TransNexus returns the signed calls. Just a very simple explanation. And again, TransNexus has solutions that can help you regardless of what regardless of what country your company is based in. It's not just for US companies. What's the benefit of this integration? Well, in order to be compliant and in order to avoid things like calls being blocked from your termination providers and other difficulties, your business does not need to deploy any technology on its own because Telinta and TransNexus have already done this for you. So basically, a relationship with Telinta, a relationship with TransNexus solves the problem for you. Here's a representation of our platform. We call it Telecore. As I mentioned, everything we do is white label. It's a carrier grade platform. So we often get the question of, can you handle this or can you handle that? And the answer is yes. It's carrier grade platform. We handle not just enterprises, but service provider traffic from all over the world. So if you want to sign up a large enterprise customer or many medium-sized customers, that traffic is not a problem for us. We're based on an industry-leading platform called Switch. We're their largest customer, the largest deployment of Switch anywhere in the world hosted. But over the years, we've added our own proprietary tools and solutions. And you can see in the blue boxes a list of some of the services you can offer with Telinta to your customers. Obviously, there's not enough time to discuss all of them, but let's focus on hosted PBX, one of the fastest growing, most exciting parts of the business, hosted PBX for lucrative business customers. So you can offer a brandable white label solution with many, many PBX features. I mean, dozens of features that you can pick from. It's a reliable carrier grade platform, very stable. We get lots of compliments from our customers on its reliability. You can offer class 5 features. We have automated provisioning using IP phone profiles that help you easily deploy phones at your customer's premise. And we'll talk more about that later. You can offer auto attendant or virtual receptionist. Press 1 for sales, press 2 for support. Customizable IVR. We have canned prompts that are very popular in many different languages, but you can also customize them and record your own. Music on hold. Also, we have selections that you can choose from, or you can upload your own. Voicemail to email, fax to email, and a variety of other things that you can pick from. Hunt groups, call queues, dial by name directories, all the popular PBX features are at your fingertips. But let's talk more about IP phone provisioning, because this is very important. It's something that truly affects your costs and your ability to serve customers. It may be the first time that you've provisioned a specific IP device, but odds are we've provisioned it many, many times before. So we've developed an auto provisioning profile that helps you with some of the parameters of deploying that phone. We provide you with an administrative portal where it's the same portal that you run other key aspects of your business, like routing and billing and other things. In this portal, you build your inventory of IP phones. You enter account details, the phone number, MAC address, and you can easily provision many popular IP phone devices. Video-capable IP phones, cordless IP phones, ATAs that help your customers use analog phones if they so choose, and even things like door units and paging speakers and other things that businesses need that run on a hosted PBX. The way it works is either you or the vendor that you purchase your equipment from can easily load Telinta's redirect address, which is a provisioning string that tells the phone where to look for its configuration profile. So when the device is plugged into an Ethernet cable at the user prem, it reaches out to our platform and automatically downloads a configuration profile. This means you don't need to manually configure the phone. You don't need to send an installer. Literally, your end user can take the phone out of the box, power it up, plug in an Ethernet cable, and the phone will provision itself. So the end result, fast, error-free provisioning, automated configuration of IP devices. And it's not just provisioning the phone for the first time, but you can also use it to update and maintain firmware. You can activate and deactivate features. So it's a very useful process. And again, it saves you a truck roll. You don't need to send an installer to the customer prem. And we have profiles for hundreds of popular IP devices from leading manufacturers. I'm sure you recognize some of these names. If you have a device that you don't see listed here, this is only a partial list, but if you have a device that we don't have a provisioning profile for, we'd be happy to take a look at it and see if we can develop one for you. So again, the power of the cloud and a hosted solution, it means you don't need to deploy any infrastructure. You don't need your own data center. You don't need servers, software. We provide that for you. We provide you with customizable portals so that you can serve your resellers. We have portals for distributors. We have portals for agents and for end users. And again, these portals are brandable and multi-language. We have them available ready to go in many different languages. If you need one that we don't have, we can develop it for you. Billing. Billing is an extremely important part of any service provider business. We provide real-time billing that lets you offer both prepaid and postpaid services. So this is really an advantage. And again, real-time CDRs, both you and your customers and your resellers can log into a portal and see their call detail records in real time. It's also very flexible, and you can offer things like discount plans. You can create special promotions, subscription plans. You can do a lot of things with our billing, and our support would love to explain how. End user payment options. We realize that many customers do businesses in multiple currencies, not a problem. We're integrated with dozens of the world's leading credit card processing companies, so you can easily handle credit and debit card payments. We even have a very unique PayPal plugin that lets your users pay you with PayPal. That adds a lot of credibility to your business as well. And with our distributor interface, you can even process cash payments if your business needs. All of this is integrated into one solution. So even though, remember that chart with all the different solutions, you can easily put them together on the same invoice, create a bundle of services for a specific price. You can really do a lot of things. You can offer a hosted PBX, but then offer mobile extensions through a soft phone. You can combine it with SIP trunking or other solutions as well. So this integration and the breadth of our portfolio is really an advantage that is difficult to find anywhere else in the marketplace. Again, integrated billing, very, very important advantage. And account management features. You can easily handle customers who pay late or don't pay. You can give them tools that they can update their billing address, credit card information, email. It's a complete account management solution and more. So most of what I've talked about is technology, but your business needs more than just technology. It needs people. It needs people who can train you to help you get started. It needs people who can support you and answer technical questions around the clock, 24/7, nights, weekends, holidays. And people who can develop custom solutions to meet your specific needs. And this is something that Telinta does very well. As a special thank you for those who attended the webinar, we'd like to offer you a $400 one-time credit on your first Telinta monthly invoice when you sign up for new service as a new customer. Please mention this webinar. When you contact Telinta, please mention the webinar so that we know to give you this credit. How can you find out more? Please contact us at info@telinta.com. and info@transnexus.com. And thank you for your attention. And now let's open it to questions and answers. We have a lot of people on the line today, so questions are coming in already. Mark,
Way to
this
go,
first,
Anthony. Way to go,
yes,
Anthony. Nice presentation. Thank you very much.
thank you. The first question is for you. It's from Samuel in Poughkeepsie, New York. How much does it cost to use Clear IP?
Okay, very good question. I mentioned during my presentation that the cost to use Clear IP is based on usage, but I'll give more detail. It depends on the volume of calls per month. And for example, the authentication of only one call is, a fraction of a cent, like 0.0021. I don't remember exactly what it is. But the important part is that you need to remember is that there is a minimum monthly fee, and that is $500 per month. There is for $500 per month, you can easily sign and verify about a million and a half calls per month. This price includes technical support, and there's no commitment as well. You don't have to commit for example, for a year or something like that. You can decide to leave whenever you want or continue to use Clear IP because you're satisfied with the functionality. Thank you for the question.
Very good. Thank you. And thank you, Samuel. This next one is also for TransNexus. Miguel in Texas asks, I have none of my own facilities and I offer a hosted service. Do I still need to comply with the FCC ruling?
A very good question. And the answer is yes. Okay. All service providers need to deploy stir shaken. There are some how would I say, particular exemptions for someone who doesn't have the technology or the capability to do it because they have like a very old switch or something like that. But practically speaking, it's all service providers need to implement it. Even service providers such as Miguel who have no facilities using, for example, like a Telinta switch, where there's no wires, no fiber, or anything like that, you are still required to comply with the FCC rules.
Very good. Thank you, Mark, and thank you, Miguel. Next question, Alphonse in the United Kingdom. How much does Telinta charge per seat or per extension? This is an excellent question, and we get this a lot. So thank you, Alphonse. I appreciate. We don't charge per seat or per extension. We charge you only for your minutes of use for outbound off-net traffic. And in most cases, this means traffic that you send to a termination provider. With Telinta, your on-net minutes are free. So when one of your customers calls another one of your customers, free call. You can charge for it if you'd like, but we don't charge you for it. Your inbound calls, we don't charge you for inbound. We only charge you for outbound off-net traffic. And this is really an important differentiator because it means our business grows when your business grows and not before. So this is why we want to train you and we want to support you because we want you to succeed. It's really the only way that we can earn more is because our customers succeed and their business grows. So we have volume discount plans. Our monthly minimum is $400 a month. That includes up to 100 minutes of outbound off-net traffic. As your business grows over time and you surpass 100,000 minutes, we provide you with volume discounts. So your overall cost per minute drops significantly. And this, again, is important because you could have, if we charged you per seat or per extension, that seat could be empty or that extension might not make any calls. So this way, we only charge you for your outbound off-net usage. It's much more scalable that way. So thank you, Alphonse. Next question, Mohammed in Ontario. How long does it take to deploy Stir Shaken using Clear IP? Mark?
Yeah. Okay. To answer, I'll answer the question and then I'll qualify it a bit. I will say if everybody focuses on it, that means, you, Mohammed, your organization, and me at TransNexus, it can be done in less than a week. And the reason I say that is that we need a few days to discuss, plan the deployment, how we're going to establish the authentication policies, and then we make a few test calls to verify that everything is working correctly. So from a technical integration point of view, it can be done very quickly. Practically speaking, it usually takes more than a week because we have a meeting, we discuss what we do, we go away because we need some information, we need IP addresses or things like this. But you can count on it taking less than a month. And I'll mention it again, and I did during my presentation, what takes more time is the regulatory aspect. If you recall, I presented you need to have a filing in the Robocall mitigation database, which I think most service providers do in 2023, but you also need to be a Form 499A filer, and you also require an OCN, and you need to register with a policy administrator. That will take more time. And I did mention it could take about 2 months in all to accomplish or to go through these regulatory steps. Thank you for the question.
Very good. And thank you, Mohammed. This one is for Telinta. Jorge in Miami. Does Telinta have a monthly minimum? What does that include? Yes, as I mentioned earlier, we have a $400 monthly minimum, and it includes the 100,000 minutes of outbound off-net traffic that I mentioned. Inbound and on-net is free. It also includes our 24/7 technical support and access to all of our solutions. So that complete portfolio that I showed earlier, it gives you access to all of those services. Now, some of the services have additional fees that lets you pick and choose and customize your offer. For example, our mobile soft phone. You can add a mobile soft phone for both Android and Apple iOS for as little as $40 a month. We also have a brandable soft phone where you can add your logo, your brand name, a clickable URL, and you can customize a menu of additional capabilities. Desktop soft phone, WebRTC, all of these things are available to you. So $400, again, it's extremely predictable and manageable costs. So you know exactly what your costs will be each month. So thank you, Jorge. And now Marie in Chicago. Does concurrent calls affect Telinta's pricing? No, that's one of the benefits. Again, we don't charge you for concurrent calls. It's possible that your DID provider or other providers may have charges for concurrent calls. But again, our platform is carrier grade, so you can really have an unlimited number of concurrent calls with Telinta. And this is important if you're handling users in a fairly large office setting where they may experience peak periods during the course of the day or throughout the course of the year, or things where they dial an access number and you have multiple people calling that access number. So concurrent calls, not a problem with Telinta, does not affect your costs whatsoever. Thank you for the question, Marie. Luis Claudio in Sao Paulo, Brazil. This is for you, Mark. Will my calls be blocked if I don't deploy Stir Shaken by the deadline?
Okay. That's an interesting question. I think the practical answer is no, but you are at risk. The FCC has clearly stated that service providers should not accept calls from other service providers that are simply not in the robocall mitigation database. Okay, so and the service provider who, let's say, refuses such calls, there's no risk for them of being sued or anything like that. They are just following the FCC's orders. But if they do accept such calls, it's not like the FCC will run after them and say, no, you're not doing the right thing. But you can get into big trouble if you accept such traffic and there happens to be robocalls in this traffic. You are exposing yourself to getting into trouble. But if you don't deploy Stir Shaken by the deadline, in fact, you don't know what's going to happen because you don't control the other service providers who may, for example, when they receive an unsigned call, they may block it. They may send it directly to voicemail. They may present it as spam likely. The important thing to remember is that you don't control the other service providers, and so it's in your interest to comply with the rules. I think, Anthony, that's the best way I can answer such a question.
Sure. It makes me think, instead of what's the cost of doing it, what's the cost of not doing it?
Right, exactly.
Okay. Thank you, Luis Claudio. Janet in Fountain Hills, Arizona. Telinta, can my resellers have resellers of their own? The answer is absolutely yes. And we would love to explain how. That's a great question. Please send that, Janet, to info@telinta.com, TELINTA.com, and we'd be happy to explain how your resellers can have resellers of their own. Next question, Albert in San Diego, California. Some of my customers calls get labeled as spam. How can I avoid that? Mark, can you help Albert?
Yeah, and it's this happens, all over the USA, and I understand it can be frustrating. That your customers have a legitimate business, they're placing outbound calls, and they're being presented, to the called party. I'd say mainly on mobile phones. When you're calling a mobile phone as spam likely. Well, first thing is, if you deploy Stir Shaken, you are reducing the possibility or reducing the risk that the outbound call be presented as spam likely, right? Because the call has been authenticated. Now, mobile service providers can have other call analytics, which may cause them to still display it as spam likely. But one thing's for sure is if you deploy stir shaken, you're reducing the risk that this will happen, because terminating service providers take this authentication into account. The other thing, Anthony, makes me think, soon at TransNexus, maybe you've heard of branded calling. We will be deploying a new feature which will allow you to offer a branded calling service to your customers. Now that will help your customers' outbound calls get answered. Branded calling is the display, of more information beyond, the caller ID and the caller name. You could say, like a dentist so and so appointment service with branded calling. So this will be something that can help in the future later on this year.
Very good. Thank you, Mark. And thank you, Albert. Our time is just about up, but let's take one last question. Kevin in Brooklyn, New York. Are there separate prices for Android and iOS soft phones? That's for Telinta. And the answer is no. Our mobile soft phone solution gives you both Android and Apple iOS soft phones. They're apps that are in the app stores. Your user goes and downloads it for free when they log in, either through credentials or through a convenient QR code, or even sign up directly from the app. The app configures itself automatically to use your service. And again, this is very economical to do. You can have a mobile soft phone in both Google Play and Apple iTunes for as little as $40 a month. If you want to add your brand and some additional features, it costs $75 a month. If you want to bundle this together with both a mobile and a desktop solution, we even have a package that can help you with that. So thank you, Kevin, for the question. And it looks like we're out of time. It's just after 12 noon. Thank you all for attending. And please, for next steps, please contact us with your questions. Any questions that we didn't have time to get to, we will find them in the chat and answer by email. If you would like to contact us directly, info@telinta.com, info@transnexus.com. Thank you very much.